Friends and Family sale, take an extra 20% off. Go to Kohl's.com to download your Friends and Family Savings Pass. Then save on everything for summer fun. Swimwear for the family starting at just $13.99. Beach towels start at only $14.99. And fine women's sandals for $29.99. Plus, you'll get some Kohl's cash too. This Thursday through Sunday at Kohl's Friends and Family sale. Find your yes. Kohl's. Some exclusions may apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to CMC Radio. I'm your host, Rob May, and with me today is Amity Buxton of the Straight Spouse Network. Amity, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Great, good to hear. So, Amity, I want to say first off that this is the first of a 12-episode series that we'll be doing with you, and we're just fascinated to find out all about you. So why don't we start? Take us from the beginning. Share with us a little bit your background and,
okay.
How you came to be.
Okay, well, I was born in Winchester, Massachusetts, very near Boston, and one of those American Revolutionary War, and I had those ancestors. So it was a small little town and a two-room schoolhouse and so forth. And so from then we moved to New York, and I went to a public high school, went on to there to graduate school, and then the rest is history.
So why don't you tell us a little more about that history? So what did you? What was your career for a while?
Okay, well let me sort of go back a little to when I was 5 years old in our little house in Winchester.
Sure.
I had been extremely ill when I was 1.5 or 2, and everyone thought I was going to die, but the doctor said, no, let's keep working. And anyway, I survived. So I remember one night in bed when I was 5, I said, you know what? God must have saved me for some kind of mission. I just kept that in the back of my head. So then when I started teaching, I got my master's in teaching from Teachers College, Columbia, and my first job was in Grosse Pointe, where my class had half my students were kids of the workers and half automobile workers, and the other half were the owners. And the day I arrived in Detroit to go off to my little house, little room I was renting, it was Labor Day. And so I heard all these Labor Day speeches, and it blew my mind. I knew nothing about labor or labor unions or workers or anything. And that was the beginning. And so that I went on from there, and then by the time I arrived in San Francisco and I was working at San Francisco State, it was the desegregating schools period. So, you know, the history of the United States kind of fell into my mission path.
Sure. So what led you to teaching? What was the driving force behind that? Were you always interested?
Behind that? I wanted to be a writer, and I knew I couldn't make any money, so I decided to go to teaching. And Teachers College gave me a wonderful foundation in all kinds of communication and literacy and linguistics and all that. So when I was out at San Francisco State, there was a funding possibility from the state to train teachers for desegregating schools, which is what I did.
Interesting.
And, it was fascinating. So one of the first schools to desegregate was 2 districts in outside of San Francisco. One was an all-black district and one was an all-white district, and they merged. So we were training teachers there when the Black Panthers came and took over, and so I was training a student teacher. I was training a student teacher under a Black Panther. So all of this has given me just great sensitivity and feeling of community with every aspect of our wonderful country.
Sure. So now how long have you been in the teaching field for?
I was in the teaching field for about 22 years. And then when my husband of 25 years came, longer than that actually, came out as a gay person, and I sort of threw my life askew, I started this new path of working with people who are husbands or wives of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, which once again was a way of working with the underdog and trying to get equality.
Sure. Now, if you don't mind me asking, how did you handle it when he first came out to you? I mean, what was your general reaction?
Well, it answered all the questions I'd had over the last few years of our marriage, why he was getting more and more distant.
Yeah.
And he knew he was gay. He jilted his gay lover to marry me, unbeknownst to me. All our years of marriage, I knew his gay lover, but I didn't know he was gay. I was so naive. So it was a wonderful marriage until toward the end, and that's when he came out. It was kind of a relief. And then gradually, I was aware, golly, I was living somebody else's secret. And that was very discomforting. So it took me, 3, 4, 5 years to work through all the I'll get into it later, but it took time.
Sure, yeah.
It took time.
Absolutely.
But I'm a better person for it.
That's staying positive. That's great, and I'm sure that's what you do. Help people with is just trying to stay positive throughout the entire situation.
Yeah, because you lose yourself in this. If you're living someone else's lie, you lose yourself, and you have to find yourself again, recreate yourself again.
So now, tell me about the foundation of the Straight Spouse Network.
Well, I stopped my work in desegregating schools and interdisciplinary curriculum and marvelous teacher center work in Oakland, California. Took early retirement so I could write a book because I knew that there were straight spouses out there that needed to know one another and the world needed to know about them. So one of the people I interviewed for my first book, which is The Other Side of the Closet, one of them had founded a task force for an organization called PFLAG, and she had a task force for straight spouses. So when I finished the book, she asked me to take it over, and I said to myself, we don't need a task force. We need what I needed in the education field, and that is a network of support systems. So I founded the Straight Spouse Network then.
And now the website for the network is straightspouse.org, correct?
Right. Okay. And the network is a network based. The core mission is helping straight spouses and couples and families cope constructively with the coming out, and to offer them fact-based research kind of information to work from. And also to educate the larger community about this phenomenon, and finally to work with other organizations that are trying to change attitudes towards gays and lesbians and marriage, so that the gays and lesbians don't feel they have to get married as the right thing to do, because that hurts everybody, not just them, but everybody.
Sure. So how exactly does the network help these people, whose partners have recently come out?
Sure. Well, we have about 57 face-to-face peer support groups all over the country and some abroad.
Oh, wow.
So they can come together with others. Realize, as my first support group leader said to me, realize they don't have two heads. They're quite normal. These other people are quite normal. They're just facing similar traumas, and they support one another. There's we don't allow gay bashing. Yes, you can bash your husband or wife for poor behavior, but we try to keep it focused on looking at the situation and finding ways to find themselves again and to find hope and all sorts of things. Then we have online groups, about 9 of them, for either some are for wives, some are for straight spouses, men or women, some are for couples trying to make it work, and some are for transgender straight couples or spouses of transgender. So that's it. And then we have on the network we have readings journal articles, most of which I wrote actually, on the facts behind all of this, so that they can understand the situation. The more they understand it, the better they can cope.
And now the people that are involved in the network itself, are they people that have just gone through it? Are they trained, trained to mentor people in the situation?
No, they're all straight spouses who have been through it. Face-to-face peer support. Peer support. Yeah, and if people come and say, can you recommend a therapist, we say, no, but go to your closest support group, and there'll be some spouse there that was helpful, and that person can recommend it. Because we don't know enough about, we can't be recommending this or that.
Absolutely.
We get in trouble if we did. But most of it is peer support, helping them. Oh, someone else was, so what did you do?
Right.
Oh, I'll try that.
Sure. And I guess it's building that trust, too, with people. You know, they understand that you've been through it, so it's easier for them to speak with you. Oh. So
and many times
in terms of
my research, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, because many times I found through my research, they'll go to a therapist, and the therapist won't know what straight spouses are going through, and they will take sides. Mm-hmm. Either the gay, and often it'll be the gay side. Well, don't you understand, honey? He has to do his thing, and honey straight spouse will say, "Excuse me, I'm going to do my thing too."
So, what are the most frequent questions that people come to you with?
What'll I do? Will I ever get through this?
Is that really like pretty much where it all starts? Is kind of help me get through this, or what should I do? What should my reactions be?
Yeah.
And what is your answer to that?
I want help.
Yeah.
You'll work it out. In the beginning, you're in shock, and maybe it's a relief, maybe to know what the problem was, but you're in shock and pain and hurt. So just go slowly, take your time. Then, of course, we have questions having to do with divorce, those kinds of things. Because so about a third of them will get divorced right away. So there are those practical questions. But the most questions is, can I get through this? Am I crazy? Something wrong with me? Mm-hmm. Did I turn him this way?
Right, and when you say that you are, you're the one doing a lot of research into the statistical evidence of this. Now, where are you getting a majority of your research from? Are there specific areas that you go to?
I just send out a questionnaire, a survey to all the lists, all the people I know, and say, those of you, for instance, the one about the counseling, I just sent it out, and I said, I want to hear about the most, their questions, they were mostly, what were the most helpful strategies that you had, what were the least helpful, what was the best advice you received, and then I pull them all together. It's called phenomenological research. It's looking at what the experience is and finding patterns.
Okay. So statistically then, how often and this might be kind of hard to answer directly, but how often does this occur, in heterosexual marriages? I mean, is it as often as, or is it more often than people think?
I don't know. All I know is that there's probably, based on research on gays and lesbians who once were married, there are at least 2 million couples who are in this, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
We get requests anywhere from 4 to 8 a day from people, either online or in the office telephone, and it's increasing.
Sure. And for your own experience, I mean, did your husband have any reason why he kept it a secret, why he didn't just, kind of tell you the truth in the beginning? Well,
my goodness, you can't be a gay person, and you can't be gay. He was a good Catholic, and even in San Francisco, there was a big gay community at that time, but you just don't do that. And a gay person getting married, he wanted kids, so this seemed to be the right thing to do. And incidentally, his gay lover was the first single man and the first gay man, although they didn't know it, to ever be allowed to adopt a kid.
Wow.
This was back in 58. So he thought he could do it, and he in the end he apologized that his fate was stronger than his love.
Wow. That does seem like a very extraordinary experience to have to go through. I can definitely understand how someone would be kind of blindsided by the entire thing.
Mm-hmm. That's a good word, exactly. You are blindsided, totally in shock. And it takes a good year to actually face what the new reality is.
Right.
And then to accept the fact, all right. And then throw away all what you thought things were. At the same time, guarding those things that were real. I mean, these gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender spouses still loved you. Those things were real. It was just this little part of it that wasn't.
Right. And so let me ask you this then. When one person comes out in the relationship, now, obviously, some people are, touting this person as, a hero for finally coming to terms with his or her sexuality. But what happens to the other partner? What happens to the partner in that situation?
Oh, your friends will say, well, either, how come you didn't know, or, well, let him get on with his life. You've got yours. You're straight. You have nothing to worry about. They don't get it. They don't get the absolute shock, rug pulled out from under you experience.
Sure. And
I can understand it, but I'm out there to say, look, guys, there's another person involved. It hurt terribly.
Absolutely. And you said for your own experience, it took you a good 3 to 5 years. You said about? Yeah, 3 to 6. That seems to be the pattern for most people. 3 to 5, 6, but 3 to get to the point that let's start reconfiguring yourself again. You can't rebuild. Right.
You can't rebuild, but you can put together the pieces you like, and you can find new pieces and reconfigure yourself.
Is there a direct process to the healing involved? I mean, for your own experience.
And there is from all the studies I've done. All the interviews I've talked to, I don't know, thousands, maybe thousands of spouses. And, there is a pattern. It goes from the shock to the facing the reality and then accepting it and then letting go of what you thought was the case and then facing what's left. And the biggest thing to do is to kind of build who you are, and your moral compass is completely shattered because you were living someone else's untruth, and your belief system goes out the window. Life has no more meaning. Where do I find it?
Right. And now, generally, do people try to work it out in this situation, or is it just divorces?
It depends on the situation. If the husband or wife already has a lover out there, they split right away. If the straight spouse is really, really, really angry and there's all sorts of not nice behavior going on, they'll divorce right away. And about a third divorce right away. Another third try to work it out and see if it can. They get together with other couples online or in groups and try to see can they make it work. And another of those, about a half of those who are trying to make it work, after a couple of years, they'll split. And there's another third who really, really, really are just trying to do everything to make it possible. And of those, half of them are still together after 3 years. So about a sixth of these cases end up still married.
Wow.
And a lot of them, even if they're divorcing, stay very close friends. And do things as families, and they work together.
Well, sure, because I'm sure there's, often more times than not, there's probably children involved at this point, correct?
Yes, and that's one of the most difficult things. If there is anger, if there is shenanigans, if there are things with the divorce that are troublesome, they have to keep focused on they're still co-parents, and those kids still need to know they have two parents who love them and care for them. And that's, it's true in any divorce, but in this case, there's so many other factors. It's hard for both spouses to do it, but I would say the majority do.
Right. And now, do you do any work with the children of this situation, or is this just strictly the spouse?
Well, I do sometimes, but there's an organization called Collage, Children of Lesbians and Gays Everywhere, and they take care of the children, and we work closely together.
Oh, great. That actually was another question that I had for you. In terms of, other organizations that you work with, aside from Collage that you mentioned, are there other groups that you work with inside of similar?
Right.
And so how do you? Sure.
Go ahead. Well, I think of it like a family.
Yes.
We have Family Equality Council, which is actually all the gay and lesbian, bisexual, transgender parents, whether they were married or not married, to a heterosexual person. So there's one group. Then we have PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. So think of them as the top of the circle. They're the parents. Then we have the gay and lesbian people. Then we have us, the Straight Spouse Network. Sort of think of it like a triangle at this point. And the bottom of it, making a diamond, are the kids. So we've got parents, kids are straight, adults who are straight and gay, and the grandkids, the collage. So we work very closely with those other three in order to keep the family sense going. Right.
That's great, because at least you're providing a full circle of support too. Okay, well, why don't we move on to some of the books that you've written? You've written 2 total now?
Yeah, I wrote that first one, The Other Side of the Closet, The Coming Out Crisis for Straight Spouses and Families, came out in the early 90s, and it was pretty much focused. I interviewed, I forget how many, but I ended up using about 12 or so of these full stories in the book to illustrate the issues that straight spouses face, the face of what about their sexuality? Why did this person turn gay? What about what about them as parents? What about the marriage? Will it go? What about their self-concept? What about their moral compass? What about their belief system? So that's what that first book was. And then, go ahead.
In terms of this book now, what was the process like for you putting it all together? I mean, did it take a very long time? Were there a lot of different things and feelings?
It took 5 years.
Wow.
I found other support groups in the country through our therapist here was a social worker, and she knew other people across the country. So I interviewed them by phone and transcribed their interviews. And this was way back before things were very electronic. This was 86 to 91. And then I read them until I could see what was common. That's what I talked about, this phenomenological research, the common issues, the common things that concern them, the common way of coping, and so forth. So that's how that book got written. So that there are the stories, and then I did research on what has been done so far in the field, in psychology, to comment upon the stories, so that you not just read someone's experience, you'd see, oh, that's what this means. That's why they're doing that. Oh, I see. And so it's a really statistical research commentary after each story.
That's great. So you were able to correlate everything and have proof behind all the feelings, too, that you had. And so how was that book in particular received? Was it pretty well off as far as?
Yeah, I had a good publisher, and I was able to do lots of publicity and gave lots of readings all over the country, and it got on TV with Phil Donahue and Oprah and all that. So it was really pretty good.
That's great. So did you achieve what you wanted to with this when it was complete?
Absolutely, because it was one of the writers, person I interviewed who had this task force that she turned over to me that I turned to the Straight Spouse Network. That's
great. That's a tremendous feat too. That's really good, especially for someone that wanted to be a writer. And so your other work now, what's this book called?
Well, this is very different. Called Unseen. Oh, sorry, I'm choking here. Unseen, Unheard, Straight Spouses from Trauma to Transformation. Well, I just realized that despite all our work, and despite being on Oprah's Phil and here and there and New York Times and so forth, people still did not get it. So I decided I would go through all my files of emails and speeches and stuff that I had collected over the previous 5 years and put together snippets of what people said from their first cries of pain and shock,
right,
through their working it out and end results. So again, there's commentary before and after, but each chapter is a different stage by stage of coping, from that first yikes, what's going on, to being their own persons again.
And again, with this book, was the reception as well as you had hoped?
Well, it was hard because the first publisher went out of business. I had to find another one. The other one's in Canada. I have to do my own PR, so the PR is very difficult. And so, which is why I'm delighted to be on this program, because not only is this in the audience for this straight spouses, so they can realize they're not alone, but also I would love it if the rest of the country, particularly those conservative pockets, could read it and realize the hurt that's being done by anti-gay attitudes and behaviors. They're hurting straight people too. Right.
And how did you develop that feeling? Because I know it's easy for people to be jaded in a situation like that. Did it take time for you, or was it just something that you knew? It wasn't, a gay or lesbian thing. It's just people being people.
Which?
Well, in terms of not harboring an anti-gay feeling.
Well, because I saw my husband suffer. And actually he ended up taking his own life. And that was so devastating to me. I did not want that to happen to anyone, ever again. No, I was very empathetic with him. I knew I was hurt, but I'm just kind of an empathetic person, I guess. And it's hard. It's very hard for a number of straight spouses to get through the anger because they're so hurt. It's hard for them to see the other side. And that's one of the things that this whole experience brought home to me, is the world is not either or, it's both and.
Can you elaborate on that thought?
Well, you look at it, are they black or white? Well, we're both humans.
Right.
Look in this room, gee, there's a lot of Asian faces here. Yeah, we're all together. It's the diversity. It isn't us versus them. We're all together.
Right. And you were always supportive of your husband then, even after, he had come out to you?
Oh, yeah, we stayed very good friends, and we celebrated things together, and,
So tell me then, where are these books, the two books that you've written, where are they currently available so that people can pick them up?
Okay, they can get them from Amazon or go to their nearest bookstore.
Great. So they're easily available to people.
Absolutely. Yep.
And what do you hope that people take away from reading the two books?
Well, I hope they take away the idea, they take away a better understanding or feeling for people whose husbands or wives come out and realize what they're going through. Not to take sides, but say, And then I would like therapists to be able to read it, and so they'd understand better. The clients that come to them, they'll know where they are, what stage, and that sort of thing. And then I also would love the general public to take a look and get a picture. And finally and ultimately, I want straight spouses to read it so they can see, here's where I am. Here's what other people think. Okay.
Right.
And give them support, that they're not crazy.
Of course. And, I have to say that this is a fascinating topic that we'll be covering with you for the next 11 more episodes that we have coming up. We are running out of time for tonight, though. But I do want to thank you, Amity, for being with us today.
Well, you're both welcome, Rob. It's wonderful to find an audience. I love it.
Absolutely. So let me just say quickly, for anyone interested or in need of support, please check out www.straightspouse.org. That's for the Straight Spouse Network. And Amity, I'm going to send us off now, as we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay. Super.
All right, same time 2 weeks from today, 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Well, from everybody here at CMC Radio, I want to thank our guest, Amity Buxton of the Straight Spouse Network. And this is Rob May saying we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.